When increased consumption is there, then of course there will be technological interventions, impacts and everything. That technological intervention, impact and everything is going to again ease the life, more time. And of course in the history of the evolution of mankind, the leisure time is responsible for the increase in population. Recent article says plastic is in the seabed of Mediterranean Sea. इतना depth में भी है. Okay, so it has gone to the seabed. Okay, the only thing that we need to achieve is Mount Everest. The impact is very much direct and devastating. It is nowhere a stop or a halt. It will only end at extinction. The pollution reduces. Pollution when reduces, climate change reduces. When that reduces, species extinction will be cut down. Let us start with this next topic. Okay, so here this topic speaks about the mass extinction crisis. Okay, so how human actions wiped out 50% of the invertebrates. Okay, so that is something we need to look at. So see here, it becomes very important for us to understand the sixth mass extinction. इसका मीनिंग क्या है? इससे पहले 5 हो चुका है. Okay, so we have to understand the sixth mass extinction and also what is our role. Okay, what is exactly our role in this mass extinction? Okay, so when you look at this here in this document or like in this particular session, okay, so basically this document also gives you the information, okay, and in this session we'll learn more in detail about it. Okay, so here firstly to start with, look at this image. So our world, their end, the human cost of extinction. Okay, so it's like basically we are saying this is our world. When we are saying it is our world, we can do anything, we are actually sort of resulting in their extinction, their end. Okay, so look at this. This is how we are actually sort of threatening the species. Okay, next. Here you can see the Anthropocene paradox, progress at the price of life. Okay, so these images I am showing it to you because images actually are speaking more words than what I can express. Correct? So like look at it. It's basically this is something that makes your urban look good, but in reality what it is done is behind it. Okay, in reality what it is trying to do is here. So there is no nature. Okay, there is no nature. Okay, so what happens is, as it says, the Anthropocene paradox, progress at the price of life. Whose life? Species. Okay, so this is the next one. Third one. When you actually look at this particular slide, this slide speaks about the silence of the species. Okay, this slide actually speaks about the silence of the species. Okay, where you can see, according to International Union for Conservation of Nature, almost 38,000 species are threatened. But before that, let me ask you one thing. Are all the species on the planet documented there? No. Okay, that means what we have documented is somewhere around 8 million species. Okay, and in that several are extinct and 38,000 are under threatened. Okay, under IUCN, the ones which are falling under endangered, critically endangered, okay, and basically threatened. Okay, these are the ones which are requiring greater attention for protection. Otherwise they will go extinct. Okay, so you can see 38,000 are threatened species. Next, you can also see 52% of the wildlife population has disappeared according to World Wildlife Fund in just 40 years, 1970 to 2014. See, very simple. there is a terminology used, extinct, and there is a terminology used, the population decline. Okay, so like by reducing the population to 100 or 1000 or 250, you are not actually claiming that we have sufficient wildlife. Okay, they are at the verge of extinction. If you look at that way, 52%, it's more than half. Okay, next, you can see 27% of all assessed species are at risk. You can see it can be amphibians, it can be birds, mammals, corals, conifers, whatever it is, they are at the risk of extinction. 27% are at the risk of extinction. 38,000 threatened, these are 27% that is at the risk of extinction. Okay, next, over 1,500 animal species are endangered. Okay, according to US Fish and Wildlife Services. This was according to IUCN and this is according to US Fish and Wildlife Services. Okay, now you can see this World Wildlife Fund says the population of African elephants has reduced by 60% in 1 decade. Okay, if you have heard about Okavango swamps, have you heard of this? Okay, during 2015-16, there is this place called Okavango swamps in Africa. Okay, so in that swamps, there were hundreds of elephants, African elephants, dead in one instance. Okay, anthrax poisoning. Okay, will they actually consume anthrax naturally? Is anthrax available naturally? No. It's man-made crisis. Okay, so like you can see, approximately 60% is reduced in 1 decade. Okay, African elephants. Next, 90% of the sea turtle species are actually threatened. Okay, so like 90% of the species is listed as endangered and vulnerable. Okay, that means you can see these are very few to mention, but the fact goes in a long list. Okay, so like basically you can see this is the silence of the species, where you can see our impact on them, still they're not calling for help. Okay, so that is something that you can see. Next, look at this. A world without wilderness. So is this our vision for tomorrow? Is this really our vision for tomorrow? The world without wilderness? No. Okay, let me ask you to do one thing. Just take a moment and just picture yourself, okay, in a place where, in a world where there is no wilderness. Okay, so there is no vast historical ancient forests in the world, and there is no coral reefs. There is no, like, see, basically the vast forests or the coral reefs, both of the places are like understood as a kaleidoscope of creatures. Now, if they both are not there, then there are no, like, there is no species diversity. Okay, so now, okay, let us go to the mountains then, or let us go to other terrestrial aspects, where you can see the view of the large predator, like, gives us the adrenaline rush, right? Now, even they are not there. Okay, because they are also part of the wilderness. They are also not there. Now, you tell me, is that a landscape fantasizing you? No, it cannot, right? It will not. So now, if if that is the case, then are we building such a future for our children? No, that is not something we need to build for. So, like, what is the thing then? Let us look into what exactly is the profound impact of human actions that is actually building our path towards such a destination. Okay, so like, let us actually look at some questions here. Like, basically, like, what would we lose fundamentally if the entire wilderness gets ceased to exist? Okay, what will we lose? That is something you need to think about. Second thing, so would it really look like a successful future if it does not include this intricate web of life around us? Not really. Correct? And most importantly, think, if that is the question you have, for these questions, if you have a negative answer, then think what is the role that we need to play individually as well as collectively. Okay, so today we will look into, with this background, we will look into the bigger aspect, that is how exactly the vertebrates, or in general, how exactly the animal and the plant kingdom around us, the diverse life around us, is being threatened for their survival by the human actions. Okay, let us look at that part. Okay, so now look at this. This is a stat. Okay, so what is mass extinction and what is this stat? That is something we need to look at. Okay, so here, when you try to understand the current crisis, okay, we can actually define what is mass extinction. Okay, here it is like, if you believe it's just the mass disappearance of the life, no, it's not just the mass disappearance of the species, but it is like a profound, rapid, widespread decline in the life. Okay, so what you can see is this happens in very small time duration, okay, not extended duration. Small duration of time, there is rapid decline in the life around us. Okay, so when you look at this, you can actually, in very another way, you can call it as, it's a major reset button of life on planet Earth. Okay, it's basically a reset button on the planet Earth. Okay, so now historically, if you look at, this has been like executed by the natural factors for 5 times. Okay, firstly, at the end of Ordovician time period, where 86% of species have gone extinct. Okay, so when you look at this, basically this Ordovician and Silurian period happened to be somewhere around 443 million years ago from today. Okay, 443 million years ago this happened, where you can see that almost 86% of the marine species got extinct. Okay, the idea was very simple. It was because the causes that was identified by the scholars says that there was glaciation and sea level, okay, that was there was significant glaciation and there was significant fall in the sea level during this period time. Now imagine, what did I say? 86% of the marine species got extinct. Okay, that means during the glacial period or ice age, the water level falls. When the water level falls, glaciation occurs. Can this, fishes and varieties of the marine species survive? No. That's where you will see the actual, drop in the species count happened. Okay, so this actually devastated marine life completely, and especially you can also see during this time, it was the Gondwana's movement towards the South Pole. Okay, you know Gondwana land? Okay, it was the movement of Gondwana land towards the South Pole. So that resulted in such a loss. Okay, next, coming to the second one. It was late Devonian, almost 360 million years ago. Okay, here you can see almost 75 to 85% of the marine species were completely vanished because the ocean was anoxic. What do you mean by anoxic? Anybody? Lack of oxygen. What is hypoxic? Hypo is less. Okay, so anoxic is absence of oxygen. Hypoxic is lesser availability of oxygen. Okay, so there was complete anoxic ocean and also significant climate change. Okay, so what you can see is this complex events happen to sort of like shift, or let us say vanish, several species. Climate change, how did it happen? Were there humans? No. But there was significant amount of volcanism that occurred during that time. Okay, you know, when volcanism occurs, there is sufficient amount of the constituents of it that is erupted, including gases and the pyroclastic debris, right? So this particular gases and pyroclastic debris in blanketed the earth and resulted in a climate change where the sun's rays could not reach down to the earth. Okay, so that is something you can see where like major decline in the marine life happened. Okay, so completely there was prolonged impact on the coral reefs and reef ecosystem during that time. Okay, next we have the third one, that was during the end of the Permian, which was 250 million years ago. Almost 90 to 96% of the species was vanished. That's why it is also nicknamed as the Great Dying Age. Okay, it is nicknamed as the Great Dying Age. Okay, because you know Siberian traps, have you heard of it? Siberian traps? Siberian plateau? No? Okay. See, you know Deccan lava plateau, right? Okay, so it is a volcanic origin. The same way, now during this Permian and Triassic period, you could see this was between the Permian and Triassic period. So during this period, there was massive volcanism that resulted in global warming and also ocean acidification. Okay, so there was complete anoxic situation across the world, global warming, complete sort of ocean acidification also, that resulted in 96% loss of life. Okay, this was the most severe extinction on this planet. Okay, this was the most severe extinction that wiped out almost all the animals, insects, species on the planet Earth. Okay, and further you can see there was at the end of Triassic, that is Triassic Jurassic extinction, that happened 200 million years ago. So here, like around 200 million years ago, 70 to 80% of the species were vanished on that particular aspect. Like because here there was rapid global warming, ocean acidification and large scale volcanic activities that occurred during this time. Okay, and you can see several large amphibians and non-dinosaur species. Dinosaur did not come till then. Okay, non-dinosaur species happened to get vanished, and that paved the way for the arrival of dinosaurs. Okay, and finally the fifth one is end of the Cretaceous. Okay, this is basically called the Cretaceous Paleogene period or extinction. 65 million years ago it occurred, and this was where 75% of all the species were completely washed out. And this was assumed to be, this is basically because of an asteroid impact. Okay, so ideally the global environment collapsed because of an large asteroid. So if asteroid happened to splash onto the earth, right, strike onto the earth, then there should be the crater. Where is the crater? The crater is nothing but, it's in Mexico, that's called Chicxulub. Okay, it's called Chicxulub. Okay, that's what the crater is. That's where you will see that the strike happened to wash out 75% of the entire species. Okay, so it actually, that clearance of dinosaurs led way for mammals to come onto the earth. Okay, did you understand this? So these are the 5 factors, but nowhere you will see human imprint. Nowhere you will see human imprint. Okay, so basically in this, what you can understand is that the very fine and key characteristic is that the scale of loss of life and the speed of loss of life, that defines mass of extinction, right? Everywhere you can see it was more than 50%. Yes or no? Right? And everywhere you can see it was a short duration of time span. that actually washed out more than 50% of the species. Okay, so it is, of course, the key characteristics of a mass extinction is the scale of extinction and the speed of extinction. Okay, so here, like when you look at specifically, present rate is not natural rate of extinction, right? If it was natural rate of extinction, then we wouldn't call it as mass extinction. Okay, so now there is, of course, look at this. What will be the rate of it due to human actions? That is what we need to look at. Okay, so any which ways, that is of course not a natural rate. Okay, so there is going to be a sudden spike if we don't stop or put a limit on our actions. Okay, so this is something that we need to know. Okay, next. This is something for your reference. The same concept in detail I have put here. So this will give you much more understanding onto the 5 extinctions. Okay, so this you can look into. Okay, next. Now there is a sort of debate on a concept or on a conclusion to arrive at amongst the scholars. Are we in the mid of one? Are we in the mid of one? That is the 6th mass extinction. That is something we need to actually look at. So, like for example, like before we learn this aspect, let me play one video for you. Okay, watch the video and then we'll look into this. Okay.
Wait, if you're looking for an ortho mattress, I've got an offer you cannot refuse. Buying a mattress.
Throughout Earth's history, there have been 5 catastrophic events that led to mass extinction of many species. But now, scientists warn that we're amidst the 6th extinction, and it's happening faster than ever before. A mass extinction is an event in which 75% or more of the species on Earth went extinct. The extinction of the dinosaurs at the end of the Cretaceous period is the most well-known of these events. But there have been 5 mass extinction events throughout the Earth's history. Many scientists think that a 6th event is happening now because of human actions. It's happening faster than any other extinction event before. Throughout the history of Earth, many species have disappeared. Background extinction rate is the rate at which species go extinct and are replaced. Mass extinction events happen when the rate of extinction increases. Scientists think that all 5 of the mass extinction events are caused by rapid climate change. The first mass extinction in the fossil record happened at the end of the Ordovician period. The Ordovician-Silurian extinction about 440 million years ago and killed about 86% of all living things at that time. At this time, the planet was covered in plants, which may have cooled the planet and led to glaciation. Also, the formation of mountain ranges might have caused the sea levels to drop. Since most species lived in the oceans at this time, these 2 changes in their environment killed off most life on Earth. The extinction of the late Devonian is the second big death that happened around 364 million years ago. This extinction period decimated marine species and bottom-dwelling invertebrates in tropical seas in particular. About 75% of the animals and plants on Earth died. While the other 4 mass extinctions are thought to have happened on a limited timeline, it is unclear if the late Devonian has this characteristic. Since it is unclear how long it took this event to happen, it is also unclear what caused it. Scientists have suggested ideas like asteroids, plate tectonics, sea level changes, and plants causing eutrophication to explain the late Devonian extinction. The third and biggest mass extinction event in Earth's history happened at the end of the Permian period about 251 million years ago. The end of the Permian-Triassic period. This event is sometimes called the Great Dying, because 96% of all species on the planet went extinct. The 4th extinction event happened at the end of the Triassic period and killed about 76% of all species alive. The end of the Triassic period. Scientists think that volcanic eruptions and asteroid impacts led to climate change that species could not adapt to. Before this event, mammals were the main group on Earth. After this event, mammals were greatly reduced and dinosaurs ruled. Procompsognathus and Melanorosaurus are two dinosaurs that lived in the Triassic period. The end of the Cretaceous period was the fifth mass extinction event happened 65 million years ago. Similar to the late Triassic extinction, 76% of all species went extinct, including all dinosaurs. Again, volcanic eruptions and asteroid impacts are thought to have changed the climate and environment too quickly for dinosaurs. The Chicxulub crater in Mexico is where an asteroid that is 10 kilometers wide hit Earth and threw a lot of dust and debris into the air. This caused the sun to block out sunlight and cause global cooling. When dinosaurs died out, mammals started to grow again. What is the sixth extinction? Many scientists think that the Earth is going through a big change right now. There aren't any big volcanic eruptions or big meteors on a collision course with Earth. Some think humans will cause the sixth mass extinction. Humans affect organisms through hunting, deforestation, ocean acidification, pollution, invasive species, and climate change that leads to sea level rise. Humans can affect animals in many different ways, changing ecosystems, increasing competition from invasive species, and disease are all contributing to this sixth mass extinction. Areas with the highest biodiversity will be hit the hardest. Coral reefs and tropical rainforests are losing a lot of their biodiversity. It took several 100,000 years for the trilobites to go extinct, but it is now very likely that they will go extinct in one human lifetime. But together, we have the power to change course and protect the diversity of life on our planet. Don't forget to like, subscribe.
Okay. Yeah. So you saw the video, right? So from that video, whatever we saw with respect to the 5 extinctions were well explained over there also. It was the same thing that we have learned, right? So now when you look at this, what about the 6th extinction? Like that video said, there is a debate amongst the community of the scholars, okay, where several scholars are saying yes, they are accepting it. It's the range we are looking at is the mass extinction phase, while several scholars are still not obliging by it. Okay, but for our situation, we should actually look at saying yes. Okay, because you can see that the scientists have called this particular extinction as an Anthropocene extinction or Holocene extinction. See, when you look at this, the current geological epoch we are at, in the geological time scale, if you see, after Holocene, like basically there is something in there also, there is a debate. Few accept the concept of Anthropocene and few do not accept it. But otherwise, that's something Anthropocene refers to the age where human actions dominates the nature. Okay, so this extinction is because of the human actions, so it is named as Anthropocene extinction. Okay, so here, like when you look at the current extinction, gives us stark evidence that the extinction rate is almost hundreds to 1,000 times greater than the natural extinction. Okay, so ideally when you look at this crisis has been affecting every life form on the planet Earth. Okay, sparing none. Okay, sparing none. So basically, but we will look into we'll keep full focus on the vertebrates in today's session. Okay, so to look into this, there are certain organizations which have published certain reports. To mention one, the World Wildlife Fund Living Planet Report 2022. It says almost 69% of average decline in the wildlife population has been witnessed. And moreover, it has been just since 1970. Okay, this was the near fact. We actually looked at the report from some other organization, right? So that is something we can see. There are birds, reptiles, amphibians, fishes, all the species, none spared. All of them come under this count of 69%. Okay, so further, what you can see that more than, like today, more than 2/3 of, like vertebrates that were monitored by several organizations have a deadline for their survival. Okay, more than 2/3 of the monitored vertebrates by different organizations have a deadline. Okay, matlab they have a survival deadline. Okay, so that is something. So basically that was the statistics that you get from this World Wildlife Fund report. Okay, World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report. Okay, so now, so why, I mean, what exactly it says about this report? Okay, matlab World Wildlife Fund Living Planet report 2022. It says, we spoke about this 69% decline, and see 37% of rivers, that is actually over, matlab 37% of the rivers, under which category? The ones which is having the flow greater than 1000 kilometers. Okay, those rivers are in the natural state. Okay, are freely flowing. Now take the other way around. 100 minus 37, 63. 63% of the rivers do not have the natural flow. Correct? That's what it means. Okay, next, 94% average decline in Latin America and Caribbean regions. Okay, so basically it's about with respect to the life. 94% average decline can be seen here. Okay, so next, like almost you can see 137 kilometer erosion of Sundarban mangroves. That's the single largest stretch on the planet of mangroves. 137 kilometers. Okay, that much erosion. Agriculture, it's a threat to amphibians. Okay, hunting and trapping for birds and mammals, right? So next, almost 55% has been declined in Asia Pacific region. So this is the stats that is being brought to you by this particular report. Okay, so next, why focus on vertebrates? We have to know that. Okay, see, firstly, when you look at this, the extinction crisis is affecting all the life, sparing no species. Sparing no species, the extinction crisis is going to hit every species, including humans. Correct? So, but when you look at this, there are certain reasons why we need to focus on vertebrates. Okay, like for example, if the vertebrate population declines, okay, if the vertebrate population declines, we do not get sufficient information regarding the health of the ecosystem because they are indicator species. Okay, have you heard of indicator species? Right? See, basically, those species that act as early warning system regarding the health of the ecosystem, that will be called indicator species. Like for example, you know lichens, right? Lichens is a symbiotic combination of algae and fungi, right? So basically, wherever you find lichens, okay, it means there is acid rain. Okay, there is much of sulfur pollution. Okay, so this is something that you can see. Wherever you have more of like rodents, wherever you have more of, like lichens was not a good example because we were looking at vertebrates. So otherwise, wherever you have more of rodents, wherever you have more of vultures, that actually signifies that ecosystem does not have a strong disposal of garbage. Right? Yes or no? So like this, basically when you look at these vertebrates play a role of indicating the status of health of the ecosystem. Right? So now when you consider this aspect, if the vertebrates go out, then what, how do we get to know about the health of the ecosystem? Okay, secondly, there are certain ecological roles or ecological niche. You must have heard about this particular term, ecological niche. There is certain ecological role or niche played by each of the vertebrate. Okay, now let us take one small example. Okay, let us take it like this. Grass, deer and tiger. Okay, now in this food chain, let us say for example, the population of tigers reduced. What will happen? Yes, exactly. The population of deer will increase. This will actually sort of put a lot of pressure leading to scarcity and death of this also. Total ecosystem is disturbed. Correct? Okay. If this is more, what will happen? Deer ka population aa jayega. Okay. Then eventually they will starve for food. They'll be starving and again entire ecosystem is gone. Out of these two, which is invertebrate? None of it. Correct? So can I say they have an ecological role maintaining homeostasis of the environment or ecosystem basically? Right? So then who will manage it if you are removing any of it? Okay, chalo. Forget about this example. Now you pick up any particular like top predator. All of them are vertebrates. Correct? You pick up any top level predator. They are like the keystone species. Correct? They are maintaining the health of the ecosystem, homeostasis in the ecosystem. That's an ecological niche. So now you tell me, if I remove them, what will happen? Yes? Samajh mein aa raha hai? What is this role? Okay. Let us take the high altitude ecosystem. Snow leopard. Remove karo isko. Correct? You know what happens then. Right? So you go to any particular lion or tiger, cheetah, leopards, it is the same thing. Okay, able to understand? So apart from this, you can also see not just them, think about other ones also. Like for example, bats. You know bat? Right? Bat or birds. Are they engaged in pollination or seed dispersal? वो खा लेते हैं seeds को and they'll go dropping everywhere. Okay, so when they do that, that's how actually the seed is getting dispersed. That's how the forest is regenerating. अभी birds ही नहीं है, क्या करना है? Birds are vertebrates? Yes or no? Birds are vertebrates. What about this particular bat? It's a mammal, right? So able to understand? Clear? So now what happens is like there is a significant importance for the survival of vertebrates. And if, for example, the vertebrates fail to survive, then the food web is disturbed. Okay, the food web is disturbed. The homeostasis is disturbed. The complete biotic life on the planet Earth is disturbed. Ecological succession is disturbed. The survival or habitability of the planet is disturbed. Okay, now do you understand these 2 points? Next, let us look at the third one. Visibility and public concern. You go to Jim Corbett, or you go to Bandipur, or you go to Dudhwa, or you go to like Kaziranga, you go to watch a vertebrate. Yes or no? Are you going there to watch some invertebrate? No. Let us say tomorrow in the news, hypothetically, if there comes an article saying rhinos in India or tigers in India has gone extinct. Okay. And let us say on the other hand, instead of that, there is one particular article which says amoeba has gone extinct. Which is more painful? That one. Because we always resonate more with the visible creatures. Right? We always resonate more with the plight of the visible creatures. Okay. So when you actually sort of show, you have to build okay, we know flagship species. What is the flagship species of climate change? What is the flagship species of climate change? Anybody? When you think of climate change and look at the species on generally any picture, which is the species that is shown? Polar bear? Yes or no? Polar bear. So now, if you see a polar bear stranded on a piece of iceberg, unable to jump off the iceberg or sort of unable to swim or something, would it actually sort of bring a sympathy in you? Right? So that's what I'm saying. Like, people are more concerned about the decline of charismatic mammals, charismatic vertebrates. Okay, so they're not bothered much about the less visible creatures. Okay, so that is one thing, that is actually another reason that makes, like, a big focus onto this, because the concern is very simple. You can actually broaden your awareness regarding conservation only by conserving the vertebrates. Correct? Yes or no? That is a greater extent of impact. Okay, so that has been successfully proven in India by Project Tiger, Project Rhino, Project Vulture, Project Gangetic Dolphin, right? Project Turtles, so many are there. Correct? So, have you heard of something called Project Amoeba, Project Plasmodium? No. Correct? Yes or no? That is something, the difference, because you have to conserve the biodiversity, conserve the keystone species, conserve the one that actually the public sympathizes. Then they will have the filtration effect. Matlab, they will actually have the trickle down effect. Okay, samajh mein aaya? So this is something that you can look at in terms of why the focus is on vertebrates. Is this clear? Okay.
UPSC CSE 2024 results are out and dreams have turned into ranks. Now you are asking, how do I get there? You've got the drive. What you need is the right guidance. Lakshya Integrated Mentoring Program 2026 by Vision IAS is your one-stop guidance program for prelims, mains, and interview. Smart, strategic revision for prelims and mains. Consistent mentorship with personalized feedback. Daily weekly schedule and practice targets. Custom test practice via Sandhan test series. Interview and personality test training. All of it structured to guide you, strategic to keep you focused, and designed to meet your evolving needs. New batch starts from 19th May. It's your turn now. Start strong with Lakshya Mentoring Program 2026. Are you still juggling newspapers, random notes, and endless PDFs trying to make sense of current affairs? Let's make your UPSC prep smarter. Introducing Digital Current Affairs Premium by Vision IAS, your all-in-one platform to read, revise, and write better every single day. Have a doubt from today's news or something in your syllabus? Just ask and get instant AI-powered answers that are concise, relevant, and completely aligned with the UPSC exam pattern. No more guesswork, no more confusion. Want to boost your mains writing skills? Practice daily with structured questions and get expert feedback to sharpen your content, clarity, and analysis, because writing well is winning half the battle. Need better revision? Use quick notes and highlights to save key points, mark important lines, and organize your current affairs in a way that actually works for you. And here's the best part, some of the most powerful tools are absolutely free. Daily news summaries from The Hindu, Indian Express and more, curated, filtered, and exam ready. Downloadable PDFs so your notes stay organized and accessible. Daily quizzes and MCQs to reinforce what you've learned and track your progress. A smart student dashboard to monitor your performance and stay on top of your goals. Whether you're just starting or deep into your prep, Digital Current Affairs Premium adapts to your strategy and makes every minute count. So why prepare the hard way when you can prepare the smart way? Visit www.visionis.in/current-affairs and start transforming your current affairs prep today. Because with Vision IAS, you don't just stay updated, you stay ahead.
Next. Here, when you see why the focus, okay. Here you see why the focus on vertebrates. This is second one. Okay. Now, starting from 1500, 1600 to 2014, okay, you can see the vertebrates, the loss of vertebrates. Okay, you can actually see how exactly this is IUCN data, International Union for Conservation of Nature. Okay, so they have given cumulatively what is the percentage of the vertebrates that has gone extinct away from the deviance from the normal rate. Look at them. Background, that is normal deviation, sorry, normal rate, natural rate. Abhi dekho. Okay, can you see that? Able to understand why vertebrates? This is the reason why vertebrates. Okay, this is the reason for the question. See, almost 0.2% mein kuch nahi hai. Other vertebrates are somewhere around 0.5. Okay, and you can see here like deer, frogs and amphibians and birds and all those at 1% almost, and birds at almost 1.5. Other mammals like 1.6%. Okay, this is something you can see, the cumulative extinction that is occurring. Okay, so this is something you need to understand. Why do we have the focus on vertebrates? Okay, next. What are the primary drivers? When you look at the primary drivers, it is the human action. इसमें क्या है? First, पहला biggest trouble population growth. जब population growth ज़्यादा होता है ना, consumption demand ज़्यादा होता है, right? There is a greater consumption demand. When there is greater, see for example, very simple. इससे पहले हमने sand mining का देखा था. Population growth, more demand for sand. Why? You want a own house, you want rental income, right? All these factors. Now, when increased consumption is there, then of course there will be technological interventions, impacts and everything. That technological intervention, impact and everything is going to again, like, ease the life. More time, and of course in the history of the evolution of mankind, the leisure time is responsible for the increase in population. Yes or no? Right? So hunting gathering societies se aajkal dekho, the leisure time increases, the population increases. Simple. Right? So that is something you can see. So technological impact always gives you more leisure time. Again, repeat. It's like eat, sleep, repeat. Okay, so like that. Okay, so basically when you actually look at this very specific to our concern, the previous 5 mass extinctions were different from the 6th one. Okay, because in the 6th one, it's not the asteroid, it's not the volcanic eruption, it's not even the tectonic plate or the sea level rise, but it's the most cunning creature on this planet, that is humans. Okay, like very on a metaphorical and very funny way, let me put down one word here. Like we have like several things, right? One language, one nation, like one something like this, one card, one nation, one ration, one something like this. So are we looking at something like one species, one world, or one species, one planet? Are we looking at something like this? Right? So it's not really the one that we should look for. Okay, so it's not the same as one card, one nation or something like that, but this is altogether different. Here, for the betterment of our own, for the good of our own, we need to actually have more diversity amongst the vertebrates especially. That will actually trickle down to the other invertebrates also. Okay, any which ways, let us look at this. See, very simple. Let me give you one simple example. Okay, let us say you are in Canada or you are in some temperate country. Okay, what is your, if you want to actually build a house, okay, what is actually your ingredient or the basic ingredient that you want? Wood, correct? Wood के लिए क्या करेगा हम? Forest, logging. Okay, so when we log down the forest, when we go for logging, wood logging, now you think again, is it not habitat destruction, habitat fragmentation? We'll learn about this in detail later. Okay, so now when you cut down that, you make your home, and also like now what is happening further, your home is somewhere distant away, you need a car, you drive the car, and there you again engage in pollution. It's very cold, so you bring extra logs of wood and put campfire, usse bhi emissions. Okay, so pollution is also there. इस pollution से सिर्फ हमको होता है क्या respiratory problem, सिर्फ हमको होता है क्या eye irritation, हाँ, सिर्फ हमको होता है क्या death, animals को भी होता है, right? And not just this, now climate change spares no one. These emissions are adding to the climate change, right? And of course, like for example, let us say if the ingredient was something else that is manufacturing, or like let us say if the ingredient was like for example any manufactured product. Now इस product बनाने के बाद आप किसी और country को economic development के लिए, trade expansion के लिए उनको भेजना है. Now you send it through the ships. Okay, now इसमें intentionally और unintentionally कुछ species इसके ऊपर आ जाता है. जब ये species उधर चले जाता है ना, that is new to the environment, right? See, it was probably unintentionally or it can be intentionally. The species that has entered the new ecosystem, now what happens is it has no competition, right? It has literally no competition. And second thing, when there is no competition, why there is no competition, you need to think that. Because it's not part of the food web or food chain, correct? So, but it will actually sort of, like when there is no competition, it will get sufficient food and it will reproduce heavily, right? When it reproduces heavily, it will colonize the region. Now it's a threat for the native species, right? It came from outside, so it is alien. It is threat to the native species, so it is invasive. So we'll call it as invasive alien species. समझ में आया? Okay, clear with this? So basically, these are the prime drivers of the mass extinction. Sixth one, habitat loss and degradation, right? Overexploitation, pollution, climate change, invasive alien species. Okay, there's a typo error. Okay, climate change, invasive species. Okay, now each one of this we will learn in detail. Okay, this was the thing I was telling you. One planet, one species. Okay, so that's why we need to promote sixth mass extinction, correct? Yes or no? No. Exactly. Human population touched 8 billion. Sufficient numbers we have, and India is nowhere compromising, right? So we will grow it more, but we need space. So let us push all the species to extinction. Do we need this? No. Okay, I'm telling it very sarcastically, but that's not as simple and joking as we look at it. Okay, so now let us look at that. Look at this. Is this not what we do? RIP tree, who cares? RIP reptile, who cares? RIP fish, who cares? RIP bird, who cares? Correct? So anything that you see in the environment, the species got extinct, that particular bird got extinct, nobody cares, right? So let us understand this also. Something might be running in your mind. So how can we individually do something? I'll answer that. We'll stick to that. Okay, yeah. Look at this. So this is the first one, the driver one, habitat loss and degradation. Okay. Fragmentation भी इसमें ही आता है, ठीक है? Now for example, habitat loss क्या होता है? Habitat fragmentation क्या होता है? Okay. Now, look at this. Look at this. This was one habitat altogether. Okay. This was actually one full habitat altogether. Okay. What happened? We need electricity, transmission lines. We need a super highway. Okay. Where the speed limit is minimum 100. Minimum, I'm saying. Minimum 100. Okay. So what happens? We had to lay this infrastructure. So we cleared the forest here and we laid the infrastructure. Okay. Which is like expressway. Okay. Expressway mein 100 ke upar hi hona hai na. 80 to 100. Right? So like that. Now what happens? Earlier, okay, there were, like, let us say, for example, any of these, you can pick up any of the animal, they were actually passing or crossing. Okay, earlier they used to actually sort of cross the entire, it's not crossing, sorry. The earlier it was like they used to roam freely because entirely it was forest. Okay, now what has happened? We have actually broken the entire habitat. ठीक है? We have actually broken the habitat. Habitat क्या होता है? पहले ये बताओ. Before we go further, you tell me what is a habitat? Yeah, yes sir. Okay. So can I say, if that is the case, like habitat को ऐसा बोलता है, it is a place where the right conditions and resources are available for the survival of a species. It can be food, okay, it can be like something like the breeding grounds, okay, it can be any other things that will actually protect it from the outside world, correct? It can be availability of food, breeding grounds, and also anything that protects it from the outside world, correct? So these will be called the habitats. इसको habitat बोल सकता था पहले? Yes or no? ये पूरा habitat था? Okay, so when you look at this as a full habitat, every habitat was actually giving it the free space of movement. That is part of it, that is protecting from outside world, right? It was giving good choice of mate, okay, so it could reproduce freely, okay, and it was having good amount of resources. So like for example, let us say there is a lake here, or let us say here it is, any which ways. Okay, you have a lake here. Do you find any other lake anywhere? No? So all these animals used to go here and consume the water. Is water necessity? Yes. But now there came a road. Okay, when there has come a road, 100 ki upar speed mein jana hai. ठीक है? So when actually the vehicles are moving at that velocity, speed, what happens? Anything that crosses will be hit. Death. 1, 2, 3, 4, 100 instances. Eventually that fear is installed or instilled in the animals. Now they don't cross. ठीक है? Now they don't cross. Okay, when they don't cross, what happens is basically इनका population इधर हो गया, concentrated here, the same but different, it is on the other side. This is habitat fragmentation. Okay, now like we see the species diversity, genetic diversity is also important. Okay, so like genetic diversity will make you adapt to the changes. Okay, like adverse changes, इससे adapt करने के लिए genetic diversity चाहिए. ठीक है? So now what happens is the limited population, इसको gene pool बोलता है. ठीक है? The limited population in this and limited population in this. Earlier 1 plus 1, मतलब let us say here there are 30 and here there are 10 of one organism. Okay, earlier there were 40. So 40 of them had sufficient mates. Choice of mates possible for genetic diversity. अभी इस 10 के अंदर ही inbreeding होता है, right? They will breed amongst themselves. 10 of them, let us say 5 male, 5 female, they will breed. The output will be 5. Among those 5, they will breed again, but the genetics were the same 10, no small limited pool. So what happens is there comes a situation called inbreeding depression. Matlab, eventually what happens is, there is one sort of a gene that was actually recessive will become dominant. It will express the disease. Or if not that, then there will be uniformity in the gene. There is no genetic diversity, but there is genetic uniformity. When this happens, now one small threat, because all of them have the same genetic uniformity, entire washed off. Now that is species extinction. Yes or no? Did everyone get this? Should I repeat? Clear with this? Okay, so that is how the habitat fragmentation can lead to it. ठीक है, इससे better क्या करना है? पूरा forest को उड़ा दो, right? So that is habitat destruction. जब आप पूरा forest को उड़ाते हैं ना, you will actually clear the entire forest. All the animals are got in one shot, no? Instead of indirectly killing it, we are killing it directly. Right? That is extinction of species through habitat destruction. समझ में आए दोनों? Habitat destruction or habitat fragmentation. Clear with this? Okay. Yeah. So, like I can tell you one simple example. Okay. अभी ocean ecosystem में क्या दिक्कत है? What is the problem that you see in the old ocean ecosystem? Climate change, ocean acidification, ocean temperature rise. ठीक है? You have several ecosystems along the ocean. Okay, like mangrove ecosystem, okay, ecotone region, coral ecosystem, ecotone region, seagrass ecosystem, again ecotone region, okay, kelp forests. All these are the different ecosystems that you see in the oceans that concentrates the diversity of species. Okay, now you tell me, if the increase in temperature of the ocean water, the acidification of the ocean water, will it allow them to survive? No. Right? It will not allow them to survive. So, that is one way how you can clear off the entire ocean diversity. That is habitat destruction. Another example I am giving you. Okay? So, who is responsible for climate change? Human beings. Right? So, human actions again. Okay? So, this is something you can look at. Okay? Now, so, like if you look at this, habitat destruction and habitat fragmentation, this is unarguably, you cannot actually contest on this point. This is the single biggest driver of biodiversity loss across the world. You take any ecosystem, this is the single biggest driver of biodiversity loss. Accepted? Yes or no? Habitat fragmentation and habitat destruction. Okay, so now that's where you should see humans' population growth should be under check. Humans' demand for resources should be under check. Humans' abilities to convert the natural habitats for their own use should be under the check. समझ में आए? Clear? So, this is something that we need to look at. Why do we convert it? What are the reasons for all these three things? Why is human so behind this particular habitat degradation or habitat fragmentation or habitat loss? Firstly, as your population increases, we have more demand for food. So we clear the forest, we convert it into agriculture land. Okay? Once we put the agriculture land, we put the electric fencing, where when the elephants come, they are electrocuted well. है ना? So this is what is happening. Okay? So, like otherwise, like massive deforestation is occurring, especially in the the tropical rainforests. Okay? Because they want to actually use it for either agriculture or raising the livestock. Okay? So now what happens? Now conversion of grasslands, overgrazing of grasslands, okay, conversion of tropical rainforests. So all these are the threats. Okay, next apart from that, wetlands को हम छोड़ा क्या? नहीं. उधर से पानी ले लो, एग्रीकल्चर में यूज करो. तो पानी जब कम हो जाएगा, species भी मर जाएगा, right? Of course. So that is another threat. Okay, and अच्छा है wetland, ज़्यादा tourism, उसमें जाओ बोटिंग जाओ, प्लास्टिक बॉटल में पानी पियो और फेंको उसके अंदर, राइट? ड्रिंकिंग इन प्लास्टिक बॉटल, आई एम नॉट सेइंग इट इज रॉन्ग और राइट, बट थ्रोइंग इट इन द वेटलैंड इज एब्सोल्युटली रॉन्ग. Okay, plastic has reached the unreachable corners of the world. Okay, recent article says plastic is in the seabed of Mediterranean Sea. इतना depth में भी है. Okay, so it has gone to the seabed. Okay, the only thing that we need to achieve is Mount Everest, right? So that is something. So like basically what you can see is the habitat destruction happens even because of dams. When you construct dams on the rivers, right, river flow will reduce. When river flow reduces, the ecosystem in the river and the coastal region is impacted. Species goes extinct. Okay, so like mining, right? When you cannot tolerate the noise, how can animals do? Right? So mining. So all these, apart from that, pollution of the river, pollution of the air, all these are several examples that is actually connecting to the habitat degradation. Okay, so that is something you can see. So the impact of such habitat degradation is very severe on the vertebrates. Like for example, vertebrates lose their homes, okay, and the food resources that they have is lost. That's why I told you elephants come onto the agricultural field. But is that right statement? No. Elephants don't come to your agriculture field. We have gone into their forest and converted it into agriculture field. Okay. So apart from that, like, you know, they actually lose their breeding grounds, they lose their food source, they lose their home, and most importantly, we are separating their populations, okay, and also we are reducing the species diversity, genetic diversity, population in the local areas in that amounts or piles up to the multiplication on the global level. Okay, so basically this is something that we are trying to do with respect to habitat fragmentation and loss. Okay, so ideally habitat loss, when we look at, I told you very casual way, I told you what is habitat loss, but when you look at habitat loss, it is a situation where the habitat is deviated from normalcy, right, or equilibrium. It is deviated from the equilibrium. Okay, so you can see that habitat destruction, if you look at that way, we are damaging it. That is also deviation from the destruction. Okay, sorry, deviation from the normalcy or equilibrium. And there is habitat degradation. That means the habitat is still there, intact, but the quality is reduced. Okay, the amount of the food that was available for it is reduced. The amount of, like let us say, options of breeding mates reduced. Okay, the amount of security it had against the external threat reduced. Okay, you must have seen, where do we have Asiatic lions? Where do we have Asiatic lions? Asiatic lions कहाँ पे हैं? गिर फॉरेस्ट. गिर फॉरेस्ट में आपको देख सकता है जहां पे lions roam, there is a railway track passing through it. Okay, you just go back home, type how many lions, Asiatic lions have died because of its collision with trains. You'll get a list of articles. Do we have anywhere in the world Asiatic lions apart from Gir forest? Then what happens? Extinct globally if it continues, right? Yes or no? So why did the railway line come there? Habitat fragmentation. Okay, the same thing, habitat fragmentation. Okay, so like you can say, like habitat fragmentation is where you are actually forcing and separating the habitat. Okay, and resulting in its reduced or restricted movement and availability of food that makes their survival tougher. Is that clear? So according to UNESCO, 30 to 35% of critical marine habitats have been destroyed, like mangroves, coral reefs, okay, several others. Recently, I happened to see one of my friend sharing his scuba diving pics. Okay, so when I saw that, he was very excited. I called him and I asked, "Did you really like it?" He said, "Yes." But if I show you that pic as a UPSC aspirant, you will actually tell me that's actually clear example of coral bleaching. It was full white. Okay, unless that is something I'm telling you, lack of awareness. Okay, that is something, a classic example of lack of awareness. As a UPSC aspirant, you would know, looking at it being white, you would say it is coral bleached, it's not a healthy ecosystem, right? So that is the thing that is happening. Okay, so otherwise, coming back, you can see mangroves, like just now we saw 135 kilometers of Sundarbans gone, eroded. That means mangroves ecosystem only, no? Right? So that ways. So apart from that, now you can see the same IUCN says 60% of the world's major marine ecosystem is degraded. अभी क्या देखा था हमने? 30 to 35% is destroyed, gone, habitat destruction. Around 60% is degraded. क्या बचा है फिर? 5%. Right? Only 5% is in the healthy condition. Okay, so that is something that you look at. Okay, so to overcome this, what do we need? Global and local and national level, like, sort of attention towards the issue. Globally, we have the Convention on Biological Diversity, right? Nationally, we have the Biological Diversity Act, and that implements to the local level too. Okay, so next, let us look at the next one. So look at this. This is for you. Oh, okay. This is for you to actually look into it. I told you about mangroves, right? So mangroves, or like, anything that is actually the ocean ecosystem, all those that is actually losing because of several reasons, like trawling. You know what is trawling? They'll have like strong nets, fishing nets, okay, and they will put it into the water. Because of its weight, it goes to the seabed, and matlab river bed or seabed, and it will start scratching the seabed, say, and collecting all the fishes. Okay, generally fishes lay the eggs on the bed. Okay, now reproduction be khatam. Okay, so like that, loss is happening. See, this is the seabed if you're looking at. Okay, so that is what, and reef destruction bhi aisa hi hota hai. Okay, and further you can see aquaculture. इंसेक्टिसाइड डालो, पेस्टिसाइड डालो, सब कुछ डालो, पानी है तो निकल जाएगा उधर से भी बाहर. ओके, दैट इज वन मोर थिंग. कोस्टल डेवलपमेंट, इंडस्ट्रीज, सिटीज, पोल्यूशन being actually sort of sewage disposal, सब कुछ. And you look at mangrove depletion is happening, degradation of feeding grounds and nurseries, that is mangroves and others, and coastal like dredging basically, okay, and sand mining. Okay, so all these things you can see how it is actually directly removing the species. Okay, so now like you can see indirectly, dams, mining, runoff, pollution, water diversion, roads infrastructure, farming, सब कुछ जो भी इधर होता है लैंड के ऊपर, उसका implication इधर रहता है. Okay, I told you, you construct a dam, water flow reduced. When water flow reduced, then eventually you will see that of course the marine species and the aquatic species दोनों को problem होता है, right? Okay, so like this is something that you can see how it impacts the habitat in the oceans. This is what I said, 60% degraded, 35% destroyed. Okay, that is the marine state of health. Okay, so next you can look at this. Let us look at how many species are extinct and how many species are going to be extinct very soon. This is called passenger pigeon. Okay, this is basically called passenger pigeon. Okay, This passenger pigeon is actually abundantly available in, was available in North America, and because the forest habitat was cleared for agriculture and settlement, and also there was like uncontrolled, relentless hunting of it, today it is gone. It is not there. Okay, so this is gone. Okay, this is called passenger pigeon. This is stellar sea cow. This is also extinct. What you can see is it was discovered, let us say it was discovered today, 27 years down the line, boom, gone. It's extinct. Just since the time we discovered till its extinction, the span was just 27 years. Okay, then think about it. It was better it was not discovered, right? So, like why? Overhunting. Okay, and also they actually live in the shallow kelp forests and habitat destruction of the kelp. Okay, so these happen to like sort of result in its extinction. Okay, next, golden toad. This is also extinct. This is actually native to Costa Rica. Okay, and what you can see, it is very much strongly, it is actually linked to climate change that is responsible for its extinction, but to an extent even habitat destruction. Okay, so even to an extent it is habitat destruction. Okay, so matlab basically what happens, you know, when the climate changes, the habitat becomes more unsustainable for the species. Okay, like let us say tropical rainforest, you will find most of the amphibians. अभी बारिश उधर कम हो गया तो इसमें of course the amount of humidity reduced. When humidity reduced, इनका habitat destruction नहीं लगता है ना. That is the thing. Okay, next. Look at this. This is called Toleshi wallaby. Okay, this is actually a marsupial from the southeastern Australia. You can see there was significant amount of habitat destruction, okay, for the sake of farming and grazing. That's where they happen to be combinedly like removed from its home, hunted, and also like predated by foxes, which were invasive alien species in this area. So 3 combined factors gone. Okay, so these are some of the important species that were removed from our planet by the reason of habitat destruction and habitat fragmentation. Okay, now the next ones are in the brink of extinction. Okay, these are orangutans. Okay, these are basically orangutans. These are found in Borneo and Sumatra Islands. So here, you know, Indonesian islands are famous for palm cultivation. So inka to land chahiye na. Indonesian islands are small. So they have to, but it is in equatorial region. So good amount of forests. So cut down the forests, kill them, and make the plantations. That's what happened. Okay, that's what actually happened. Habitat destruction and converted the forest lands into agriculture and plantations, and now they are under threat. Okay, next. You can see this cute leopard. This is called Amur leopard. Okay, this is called Amur leopard. This is actually critically endangered. This one also. You can see this is found far east of Russia and also China. Okay, where you can see that the deciduous forest habitat is actually been cut down because of logging, forest fires, and infrastructure development. So this is endangered. Okay, next. You can see this. This is called cross river gorilla. Okay, yeah. These are also critically endangered. These are found in Nigeria and Cameroon. Okay, but what is happening is the particular, what you call, the forests are lost for agriculture and also human settlements. So you will see they have become more vulnerable because when the habitat fragmentation happens, they are not able to move. Okay, the restricted movement is actually making them do that. This is called Vaquita porpoise. Okay, so you can see this is the world's smallest porpoise. Okay, and like literally if you can see 1997 में इनका 567 था. अभी 2021 में that's it. Okay, 10 से 12 गया बस. Okay, so हाँ अभी तो it would have gone even more down. Okay, because from 30, 2/3 are reduced by just like 5 years. So 19, I mean अभी तो 5 years हो गया ना, we could declare it extinct very soon. Okay, so that is the thing. Okay, so this is also one important that can be seen in the Mexico's Gulf of California region. Okay, so this is something that you can see. Okay, next. Here you see, this is called kakapo. Okay, kakapo is basically a flightless parrot. Okay, this is seen in New Zealand. Okay, this is actually seen in New Zealand. Now, because of the habitat clearing, they will also be cleared very soon. Yeah, so that is what we are responsible for. Okay, next. So these are some of the examples. Clear? Now let us look at the next one. Okay, here the driver 2. What is the driver 2? Overexploitation. Okay, so when we look at overexploitation, it is nothing but when you exploit the resource more than its replenishing capacity, that is called overexploitation. Okay, so very simply, unsustainable fishing, like the trawlers, okay, and like the bottom trawlers, or all these will actually sort of like deplete the global fish count. Okay, and similarly, you can also see, like for example, trawlers में जब हमको fish चाहिए, सिर्फ fish मिलेगा क्या? उसमें dolphins भी आ जाएगा, turtles भी आ जाएगा. So they will be entangled in the net, and before they are coming onto the boat, they are dead. Okay, so ये भी हो सकता है. Okay, so basically, so unsustainable fishing is a threat to the marine species. Second thing, illegal wildlife trade. Like for example, China wants what? Red sanders. Why? Because they have medicinal property. Okay, chalo, let us speak about vertebrates. China wants rhino's horn. Again, medicinal property. China wants like for example, let us say वो क्या है? The scales of what is that? I forgot that animal. उनका scales होता है ना, like. Chalo, any which ways, I'll tell you that later. Okay, that is also there. So basically, like China has its own like presence with respect to exploitation of animals. Not just China, you can see anywhere when you actually sort of, like for example, take India. India में क्या होता है? Tiger का claws चाहिए. वो claws वो निकल के दे देगा क्या? नहीं. You will kill it. That is poaching. Okay, so tiger population declined. 2006 में कितना था? 1400 population. उसके बाद proper conservation efforts, today it is 3600 plus. Okay, so like poaching of elephants, क्यों? Ivory, tusk. Okay, so like basically like these are some pangolins, that is called pangolins. Pangolin का scales होता है ना, उसको भी use करता है. Okay, so this is where it is pushing these iconic species into the extinction. Okay, otherwise unsustainable hunting. Okay, बीच में Siberian crane इंडिया को आने आता है ना every year. So इनका population of migration, the population that is migrating reduced. Why? Afghanistan से Pakistan stretch में पूरा hunting. हाँ, they don't leave even birds. Okay, so this is the scenario. So now what happens is basically that uncontrolled hunting is the threat for the bird species. Okay, so that is something that you can see. Okay, so ideally the impact is very much direct and devastating. It is nowhere a stop or a halt. It will only end at extinction. Okay, so this is what you are seeing with respect to these particular like species. Okay, so that is what is the overexploitation doing. Okay, like for example, simple aspect, overexploitation, sand mining देखा था हमने, वो वही है example. Overexploitation की वजह से fish species का population, species as well as population दोनों कम हो गया. That's what we saw in the video, Jhelum River, right? So like that. Okay, next let us look at some of the examples which have gone extinct due to the overexploitation. Okay, this is called great auk. Okay, this was present in the Arctic Circle region. Look at this. understand this very clearly. I'll tell you. Okay. Check this name, put it on Google. If you can get a real photo, show it to me. You will not get a real photo. Okay, because this got extinct in 1844. Yeah. Okay, so you will not find it. Okay, so that is something that you can see. Here, this particular great auk, okay, the great auk was in the North Atlantic region, and also it's a flightless bird. Okay, it's a flightless bird that was around the Arctic Circle, and it was heavily exploited for its eggs and meat. Okay, overexploitation. Okay, so that is what happened. The last confirmed great auk was in 1844. It died. Okay, extinct. It's not there anymore. Okay, next, apart from that, this is called, did you get? No. Okay, yeah, this is called the Carolina parakeet. Okay, so this is the only native species of eastern United States. Okay, only native parrot species of eastern United States. Okay, so today it is completely gone because you can say this was being hunted for a reason that it was an agricultural pest. Okay, मतलब agriculture के लिए threat था, उसके लिए hunted. Okay, and apart from that, उनका feathers so beautiful, so they wanted the feathers. Okay, so that is something. And habitat loss is also there, but otherwise. Look at this. These are the vertebrates that are going to be extinct very soon. Okay, so first one, like overfishing की वजह से, this is going to get extinct very soon. This is called hammer-headed sharks. Okay, these are called hammer-headed sharks. This is going to be like, if not controlled, if not put a check today, then it will be extinct very soon. Okay, this is because of overfishing. Okay, and also demand for meat. Okay, same. Okay, this is also same. Look at it, how big it is. Okay, that's why I chose this picture. Okay, so it is called the giant manta ray. Okay, so this is also going to be extinct, and this is also very much like the victim of unsustainable fishing practices and meat. Okay, yeah, demand for meat. Now, which is the third one? It is the driver of pollution. The third driver is the pollution. Okay, what do you mean by pollution? Yeah, basically when we say pollution, pollution is where harmful substances or energy, okay, harmful substances or energy is put into the environment that will actually disturb the ecosystem and harm the life. Correct? That is pollution. Now, energy कैसा? बाहर से इतना गाड़ियाँ चल रहा है, noise pollution, right? Light, unnecessary lights outside in the city areas and surrounding, light pollution, right? So those are energy. Okay, but air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, these are the basic substances that is added into it. Okay, now see, plastic pollution is also one of it. Very much highly visible problem. Plastic debris ranges from, okay, microplastics to large plastics. Okay, now there is also a concept of nanoplastics. Okay, nanoplastics, if you are standing, it can enter through your skin. Okay, microplastic through your nose. Okay, normal plastics through the spoons that you eat. Okay, so this is how it enters into us. Is it biodegradable? No. Is it actually capable of being removed by excretion? No. Then can it stay in our, like, fat tissues? Yes. If it cannot be removed, it will be in our fat tissues, accumulated. Okay, isko kya bolta hai? What is this? Bioaccumulation and biomagnification. Okay, ऐसा ही, like imagine it goes into the marine ecosystem. Okay, now from the it will be amongst the phytoplanktons. When actually shrimps and krills will consume it, sorry, zooplanktons consume it, it goes into zooplanktons, uski baad shrimps and krills, uski baad small fishes, uski baad medium fishes, uski baad humans or birds or large fishes. Okay, now when it comes into our body, it will lead to cancer. Okay, samajh mein aaya? So this is how, this is called karma. Okay, this is actually called karma. What we do, it comes back to us. Okay, so that is something. So apart from this, so if we speak about, that was plastic pollution. What about chemical pollution? Abhi, like for example, if you look at, there is something called Stockholm Convention. Have you heard of? Yeah. What does it do? It actually stops the persistent organic pollutants usage, manufacture, trade or consumption or anything that ways. Correct? So, like many of them are pesticides and herbicides. Yes or no? That means that has applied on the plants. उससे क्या होता है? Entry into the food chain. उधर से biomagnification. Okay, so apart from that, see, you can also think mining की वजह से heavy metals leaching होगा, ठीक है, और pharmaceutical companies की surrounding में water में pollution होगा. All these are chemical pollutions that will spoil the ecosystem and extinct the species. Okay, similarly, nutrient pollution, eutrophication सुना है? That is the best example of nutrient pollution. Okay, so like basically eutrophication से क्या होगा? Algal bloom. Eventually, no sunlight, no oxygen, matlab no sunlight, no photosynthesis, no oxygen, then all the organisms dead, making a dead zone. Species gone. Okay, so that is nutrient pollution. And also think of those animals like owl. You know owl? Okay, owl is nocturnal, right? Flying squirrels are nocturnal. So when you actually look at them, these nocturnal species, okay, they need darkness. Now unnecessarily if you put lights, light pollution, disturbed. Okay, so they wouldn't get their prey, they will starve to death. Samajh mein aaya? Okay, similarly you can also see noise pollution. Abhi like water transport, uska traffic, like let us say in NW1, National Waterway 1, okay, Bhagirathi to Haldia, okay, Bhagirathi to Haldia. So now when you look at this, इसमें जब ज़्यादा ट्रैफिक चलता है, उधर गैंजेटिक डॉल्फिन है, राइट? वो तो एक्चुअली कैसा चलता है? सोनार वेव्स, दे आर ब्लाइंड. नॉइस पोल्यूशन है ना, इतना ट्रैफिक की वजह से. नाउ दे विल बी एक्चुअली टेकन टू हॉस्टाइल जोन्स, एंड हॉस्टाइल जोन्स का मीनिंग क्या है? बैंक्स ऑफ द रिवर. इफ दे कम देयर, ह्यूमंस विल नॉट स्टॉप. राइट? समझ में आ रहे हैं? Okay, that's how they will be threatened. Okay, so like this. So there are several aspects cumulatively that is responsible for changing the behavior of the animals or species that can threaten their life or directly kill them. That is what is happening. Okay, that is what is happening. Because of the pollution, they are directly dying. Okay, so this is how you can see that there are types of pollution, its impact, and what exactly is pollution. Okay, next. Now look at this. This is called Baiji white dolphin. Okay, so this dolphin is one of the species that has been lost because of severe industrial and agricultural pollution. Okay, so you can see that pollution happened along the Yangtze River. You know Yangtze River? Yangtze? Okay, in China there is this Yangtze River. So along that there was severe industrial and agricultural pollution that led to extinction of the species. Okay, so that is something you should know. And further, you can actually see this is actually a freshwater dolphin. Okay, Yangtze River pe tha, and this is gone. Okay, and next you can also see there is, like for example, next one, this is California condor. Okay, so this California condor is one of the example for the ones that can go extinct very soon. It is critically endangered. Okay, this is actually this species is facing a threat due to lead poisoning. Okay, it's in California region. It is actually facing the threat due to lead poisoning. Okay, so pollution. Yes, the next driver, let us look at it. Climate change. Okay, so how do you define climate change? Anybody? Over a long duration of time. Change in the weather patterns over a long duration of time. Okay, how much is that long duration? 30 years, almost a minimum of 3 decades. Okay, so like when there is change in the weather pattern, cumulative weather pattern of more than 3 decades, okay, then that is called climate change. The climate change is the biggest driver of the habitat change, habitat loss, habitat fragmentation, extinction of species. Okay, so like when you look at this, like for example, as the global temperatures rise, okay, species will migrate towards the polar areas. Correct? When they start moving towards the poles, now what happens is, like eventually there it is already witnessing the loss of habitat for some species, like polar bears, okay, dolphins. So what you can see is the warming temperatures in the polar areas will actually eliminate them. Okay, now on the other hand, like you can see, there will be several, like phenological mismatches. Iska meaning kya hai? Like for example, let us say when there is like sort of what do you call, okay, let us say when there is temperature change, migration of species will occur. Correct? Now for example, the temperature change naturally should happen in a year, let us say during March or during September or October. Now what happens, the temperature change, okay, did not happen in September, it did not get winters in the September, but the winters came up in December. Okay, now what happens, the species that was supposed to come here, okay, which was a feed for some other species, which was like some mating or like let us say anything like that in the food chain for some other species, because it came late, can I say this species got eliminated? वही होता है climate change की वजह से. Okay, next, apart from that, you can also see the greater the amount of carbon dioxide that is put into the atmosphere, the greater is the ocean acidification. Ocean acidification की वजह से, or when it is in the atmosphere, the temperature also increases, ocean temperature increases. So almost all the marine ecosystems are under threat. We studied that. Correct? So this way, the climate change also, like on the other hand, let me say, climate change will actually bring erratic nature of the weather patterns. Rainfall, okay, or droughts, heat waves, or like floods, or wildfires, storms, ये सब कुछ erratic pattern में आएगा. Right? So इसकी वजह से भी population gets eliminated. Clear? So this is also something you can see. Now, if you look at this, like this was the same picture which I was speaking about, okay, which I have put it on the background. Okay, so look at it. Climate change is responsible for it. Okay, you can see the picture, right? So now you can look at this. This is called Bramble Cay melons. Okay, so these Bramble Cay melons are the only mammal, understand this, only mammal that was endemic to Great Barrier Reef. Where is Great Barrier Reef? Australia. It was the only mammal for the Great Barrier Reef declared extinct. Okay, declared extinct. So there is no only mammal that was, I mean small rodent mammal, rodent families में. Okay, this Phenological mismatch matlab basically what happens is, like for example, let us say migratory birds, okay, they are supposed to come to their breeding grounds. Let us say from Siberia they had to come here. Okay, so like for example, what happens is, let us say for those migratory birds there are certain food resources here, that is insects. Okay, now what happens, like for example, because of like the climate change, okay, because of the climate change, the temperature happened to change early than what should have happened. Okay, so now what happens, when it happened early, they'll start migrating here. They'll come here even before their food resources are available. They'll starve to death. Aisa. That is one example. Okay, so that is something. Okay, मतलब temperature और rainfall patterns इतना change हो जाता है that you will see that the ecological events that should happen on that time scale will not happen on that. That is what it means. Okay, yeah. So this is something that you can see. Next, so the rising sea level. Okay, this is the small rodent, the only mammal endemic to the Great Barrier Reef. Okay, the only mammal that is endemic to the Great Barrier Reef. Okay, मतलब endemic species पता है ना? You know what is endemic species? Okay, so amongst the endemic mammal species, this was the only one in the Great Barrier Reef. Okay, so this is gone because of the rise in sea level and increased storm surges that destroyed its habitat. Okay, so that is what happened. Next, apart from this, what you can see is the next one, that is, yeah, wait, yeah, polar bear. Okay, so you know about the polar bear, of course. These are basically like, you know, these are actually living or surviving on hunting the seals. Okay, so now that becomes their primary food source. So like, because of the rapid melting of them, I mean rapid melting of the glaciers, what has happened is they are supposed to swim for long distance for getting their food. Okay, so that ways it is not capable of swimming for long distance, so they are actually sort of reducing matlab in population because of starvation. Is that clear? So that is what is happening. And like, apart from this, next one, this is emperor penguin. Okay, so this is like basically going to be on the verge of extinction. Okay, where you can see these are present in the Antarctic region, and because of the sea ice reducing and the ice being not stable, okay, their habitat is being destroyed. Okay, so that's where the rising temperature will actually decline their species and make them disappear soon. Okay, next, coral reef fish. Okay, this is actually coral reef fish. You know, ocean acidification, ocean temperature rise, all these are actually calculatively adding up to the destruction of these corals. So that will actually make this go extinct soon. Okay, next, this is green sea turtle. Okay, when you look at this here, the temperature that is rising is responsible for increase in the sand temperature along the the coastal areas. Okay, the beaches. When they lay the eggs, okay, when they lay the eggs require certain temperature within which, if it is there, then it will hatch to a male turtle. If it is greater, then it will be female. So majority of them being female, it's having squid sex ratio. Okay, probably this is one of the species that is having more female than men. Okay, so yeah. Okay, so that is the thing. Next, this is called American pika. Okay, so American pika are basically the small mammals. Okay, they are very much restricted to the North American cold altitude, cold high altitude ecosystem. But today, because the temperature is rising because of climate change, they will be extinct soon. Okay, so next, last one. Okay, now when we look at the last one, that is invasive alien species. I told you, when we say invasive alien species, they are intentionally or unintentionally introduced into a new ecosystem. Okay, they are not part of the food chain or food web. They are not integrated in the part of the food chain or food web. So they do not have anything to put a check or balance it. So no competition. So what happens? They can actually sort of they can actually when there is no competition, they can kill and prey on more amount of native species, resulting in depletion of them, depletion of the native species. And when sufficient food is available, they will reproduce more, colonize the area. So eventually native species will be removed. Okay, so this is what happens. Okay, now look at this. So it's a snake, okay, which is actually called the brown tree snake. Okay, so this one happened to, this was actually introduced into the ecosystem, and you can see this was responsible for the completely removal of the native bird species. Okay, this snake was actually the, what do you call it as, the invasive alien species. This is called the brown tree snake. Okay, the species that got removed is called Guam, Guam. Okay, yeah. Look at this. Here you can see normal ecosystem. Grass, grasshopper. Okay, grasshopper eats on grass. Grasshopper is fed by, taken by dragonfly. Dragonfly will be taken by quail. Okay, now what happened? This fox, okay, this fox eats quail. When this fox eats quail, there is no, check on this fox, because it's not part of the food chain. It has been introduced intentionally or unintentionally. New ecosystem, it has come there. This will eat this one. Okay, so basically this shall eat this one. When it eats this, then basically you know what happens. Inka to, literally the complete ecosystem is disrupted. It's a competition for these two. Okay, so like that. Okay, so eventually that you can see that gets disrupted. Okay, next. Now look at this. Now when you look at this, here the slide we will be speaking about, it's basically the domino effect, consequences of vertebrate loss. What will be the consequences of vertebrate loss? Okay, firstly, when you look at this, it is not something like an aesthetic problem. It is more than that. It amounts even to the ethical problem. Okay, so now when you look at this here, basically when a species disappear, it will be responsible for the disappearance of several species in that ecosystem. Okay, matlab let us say pollinator disappears. Okay, then trees will disappear. Yes or no? Plants will disappear. Like that. Okay, so basically the loss of seed dispersers will reduce the forest regeneration. Okay, similarly loss of predators will impact the population of its prey species. Like we saw, tiger का population कम हो गया तो deer का population बढ़ेगा. Deer का population कम हो गया तो tiger का population कम होगा. Right? So like that. So basically, like you can see, there will be the entire ecosystem collapse. Okay, that's the domino effect you can see here. Okay, that's the ecosystem collapse. Next, secondly, you can also see when the ecosystem collapses, there are several services that you get from the ecosystem. Okay, like food, water, or climate control, or soil moisture control, or for example clean air, clean water, so many things. All these ecosystem services will come to halt. Okay, or will be reduced in its quality. Okay, so that is something that you can see. Further, if you see that it has an impact on human well-being. How? Like for example, these forests, these species have been responsible for potentially coming up with new medicines for several disasters. Okay, so matlab several diseases basically. Okay, new medicines. Now when these wild species go extinct, you don't have solution there. Secondly, biodiversity actually is responsible for food security. That will be disturbed. Okay, thirdly, nature provides not just aesthetic value but cultural, recreational value also. Okay, now then losing species will actually hinder that also. Okay, so it will have that aspect also. Okay, so now when you look at the ethical implications, okay, what happens with the ethical implications is when there is rapid extinction rate. Okay, when there is rapid extinction rate, now the question comes, will the world be sufficient only for one species? That's the question. Okay, so what can be done? Okay, so what can be done? Before going to that, do we as the dominant species have responsibility to protect the other life forms with whom we share the planet? Yes or no? Okay, so probably this question you can write an answer back home. Okay, so any which ways you will get this particular slide, so you can write an answer for this. Okay, so this is something you can look at. Next, so what can be done? So what are the solutions and actions? Basically, it is strong policy and governance that need to be brought. Like, for example, at the global level, we have the Convention on Biological Diversity. So in the national level, we have the Biological Diversity Act. These, like for example, are functioning on like conservation of the species, sustainable utilization of the resources attaining from that species, and also access benefit sharing, right? So these are the important aspects of CBD. Now coming to Biodiversity Act, it is implemented by India also, these three objectives, and according to Biodiversity Act and several other legislations in India, Wildlife Protection Act and all those, we have several protected sites and wildlife corridors that is actually protecting the species, right? That is actually protecting the species. Further, you can see that the technological innovations can be brought, like for example, deploy more of green energy technology so that we can fight the climate change. When we can fight the climate change, obviously the loss of species will be reduced. Okay, next, apart from that, bring sustainable farming practices so that you don't use much of pesticides, insecticides, where the pollution is harmful for the survival of the species. Okay, so go for sustainable, like farming techniques. Okay, and moreover, start using several new techniques like satellite monitoring, basically to detect deforestation anywhere occurring or poaching anywhere occurring, or also you can go for DNA analysis of species identification and DNA, like for example, recently rhinotope. Have you heard of this rhinotope? In South Africa, what they have done is, earlier they used to cut the horn of the they used to actually tranquilize the rhinos and cut the, medicinally they used to, through proper system, the doctors used to come and they used to cut the rhinos horn so that they are not subjected to poaching. Okay, but now what they have done, they have come up with some new technology. They will induce very low amount of the radioactive isotope into the horn of the rhinos. Now what happens is, basically that horn of the rhinos will have radioisotope. Okay, if any poachers happen to cut the horn of the rhinos and carry it, anywhere they are going, they can identify with the RFID tag. Okay, and also if they are keeping in the bag or anywhere they are hiding, that radioisotope can be detected by the sensors because they undergo radioactivity. Each dosage is sufficient for 5 years. After that, again give one more dosage. That is healthy way of giving it. Okay, now that's a new technology to stop poaching. Yes, that's the part of technological innovations. Okay, so that is also one part. Now when you look at this, I told you individually what can I do if that is the question, right? There is a role. This was group. Now what about individually? Individual actions are also very important. Very simply, reduce overall consumption. Okay, reduce overall consumption. Very simple. Turn off your unnecessary lights. That will actually reduce the electricity consumption. Of course, even if you get free electricity, turn off them. So what happens? The thermal power generation, coal based. Okay, so the pollution reduces. Pollution when reduces, climate change reduces. When that reduces, species extinction will be cut down. Okay, so simple examples. Or reduce the waste. Go for circular economy. Look for reduce, reuse, recycle principle, where when the waste production is reduced, then eventually the waste will not contaminate, leading to pollution and extinction of species. Okay, so next, apart from that, you can also go for conservation organizations. Contribute yourself, your efforts over there. Support them with your knowledge, with your efforts. Okay, and also make sure you can volunteer there. Okay, all these things when you do, actually you can also sort of, like in the previous sand mining also I told you, youth should educate the people, bring awareness. So the same thing can be advocated with respect to this issue also. Okay, and that would actually give a better contribution to your DAF, okay, in the future. So when you are free, spend some time. I wouldn't suggest you to do it regularly, but spend some time. Next, there are several case studies that actually signifies that reversal of the same can be done. Matlab, instead of pushing the species towards extinction, human efforts which has led to the extinction or which is leading towards the extinction, when reversed, they can save it. Okay, like Project Rhino, we have increased the population through Rhino Vision 2020. Okay, that was a program. Okay, so with that, we have increased the population to 3,000 plus in India. Kaziranga has more than 67% of its population. Okay, global Indian rhino population, 67% is in Kaziranga. Next, Project Tiger, we have 58 tiger reserves. Okay, and the efforts of NTCA, the Project Tiger, has brought the numbers to 3682. India is the tiger capital of the world. From where? 1411. Okay, from 1411. Okay, similarly, there is ban on whaling across the world, right? That ways it will actually sustain the population of whales. Okay, so like this. So ultimately, the key message, this is the key message, which is not, the intention is not to actually teach this, but this is to actually make you read it. Okay, please read it. Okay, and also you should know the importance of putting that picture on the background. Okay, the children are enjoying their playtime in the nature. Okay, so think about it. Generally, it's not this generation who is actually enjoying it, right? It's the, probably the 90s kids were the last who enjoyed in the open, like, nature, right? So that is something. So this is all about this session. Okay. Yeah, I hope you learned something. So you have any doubts, you can ask me, or otherwise that's it about this session. Clear? How did you like it? Learned something? Okay, good. Thank you.